What is artificial intelligence? What are we talking about?
The adoption of this is going to be critical. And then how is it going to change operations?
Death by PowerPoint is going to turn into the death of PowerPoint.
Now, instead of you reading it and summarizing the 8 points, the 10 points, you can get the help of a Gen AI agent to help you do that.
This is the stuff that is going to make people love AI. It's like take away these administrative tasks that we all have to do, but we don't want to do them because they're inefficient. They take up too much time.
Why should we have to sit and do it? Because we had to do it previously. Why? Because we didn't have technology to do that.
Okay, I'm pleased to be joined today by Vin Kumar, a senior leader with the Hackett Group, a publicly traded management consultancy with 9,000 employees around the world. And we are thrilled to have Vin here today to talk about artificial intelligence. And Vin helps clients think about and understand the big issues related to artificial intelligence. So we're just thrilled to have him here today. And Vin, welcome to the Huntsman Knows How Podcast.
Hey, Kevin, thank you so much.
So Vin, for our amateur AI listeners, why don't we start with the most basic question, which is what is artificial intelligence? What are we talking about?
So, the best way I try and help clients think about it is AI in its broadest sense is trying to emulate a human brain. And like human brain, we have a left brain, which is much more analytical, a right brain, which is much more, generally speaking, more creative. AI that existed before Gen AI came on board was trying to be more like our left brain, extremely analytical. You could give it a set of instructions. It would go and execute extremely fast. It could look at all sorts of data and it could do it. But fundamentally, you were telling the machine or the model what to do, and the machine was going and do it. That's kind of what AI that existed from 90s onwards till Gen AI came on. Now, Gen AI or generative AI, emulating more the right brain activities. It is focused much more about creating content, creating ideas, and fundamentally works on the probabilistic side of our decision making. Kevin, you and I may say we make decisions sometimes out of gut. And what that basically means is both of us have lost hair, so we have been experienced in the market. We have, seen a lot of situations to do it. Based on that, we are making some judgment calls. And that's kind of how we do it. So it's a very probabilistic way of decision making. And that's what Gen AI is really good at. If you say looking for solving some sort of a very deterministic problem, 5 + 5 = 10, then your left brain is much better suited for it. But if you have to take a probability guess on what the weather is like today, or understand an email that was sent to you by your manager or your client, you're trying to decipher that is based more on probabilistic. And that's where Gen AI comes. And that's the whole revolution which Gen AI started, is the ability to address this kind of probabilistic based decisioning and thinking and creating stuff.
So Vin, what is it technologically that has happened in the last 1, 2, 3, 5 years that has helped AI go from the left brain to the right brain? Because this seems to be, it's all the rage right now. And I think for a lot of people, it feels like it just came out of nowhere. I know for technologists, this is nothing new, but what is it that happened?
So, there's a really nice story here, and let me go into this. So what happened was, there is a fundamental shift. So the predictive AI or the left brain AI that I was talking to you about was based on kind of some technology called neural networks. And it kind of kept, becoming smarter and better and better. And at one time, Google developed a model where you could load a picture and you load a picture into the model will tell you if it's a cat or there's no cat. So, and the way they learned and the model learned is they fed about 10 million pictures of cats, and somebody sitting was training the model. So you load the first picture and the model guesses, is it a cat or if it's not a cat? If it's correct, thumbs up. If it's wrong, you do thumbs down. You do this 10 million times and the model learned to identify what a cat is. Now, the interesting aspect of this is nobody told the model what is a cat. If you or I are asked, what is a cat, we would say it's an animal. Most likely it's longer than taller. It's got 4 legs. It's got maybe pointed ears. It may have whiskers. And that's the way we would define a cat. But nobody told the model what's a cat. It learned by itself. And we really don't know what is the image of a cat in the model's mind. But it learned because we just said thumbs up, thumbs down, and the model learned. So there were some critical learnings for Google when they built this model. And what they learned is, one, the model is able to learn by itself. We didn't have to describe it. 2, what it also learned, it took 10 million videos or pictures for it to understand what a cat is. So they felt that, hey, this technology which we had is kind of plateauing. It's capable of doing it, but the capability is plateauing to do it. And then what happened, there were 8 researchers in Google came up with this research paper called Attention is All You Need. And that was based on a different, for lack of a better term, technology, which is called the transformer. And that's what, when you hear the term ChatGPT, that GPT stands for generative pre-trained transformer. And the transformer is the what which is revolutionized AI and taken to the next level. And that is, they did it, and think of it simplistically as if you have seen, people interpreting, right? So I'm here speaking to you in English, and Kevin, you're listening to me. And as I pause, you are translating it into some other language. You're not translating every word. You listen to the entire paragraph that I stated, and then you take the gist of it, and at real time, you're able to translate it. That's the technology of what Transformer is doing. It listens to the entire paragraph, understands what needs to pay attention to. In fact, that research paper that Google has published was called Attention is All You Need. Ode to the Beatles, Love is All You Need. They created this word, attention is all you need. And that's what they did. The technology listens the entire paragraph, sees which is the area of attention and focus, and is able to translate it and use it. That's kind of at a high level, what the transformer technology is.
So for large enterprises like Huntsman and any other corporation, or any organization, not just for-profit companies, what does this mean? Because that's what every leader is thinking about right now, is how do I understand this technology and figure out how it impacts my business?
It's a great question, because Kevin, if you'd ask me how it's impacting society, I'll be, it's way above my pay grade, and it's much more complex than I can solve it.
We're going to get to that in a little while, Vin, so don't worry.
But in an enterprise, think about it as predominantly you can use it in kind of 2 fundamental ways on how people use Gen AI in enterprises. One is on the revenue side of your company. You're a chemical company. You're trying to have all of these scientists kind of coming up with new chemicals and new molecules and new compounds, different uses of that compound. There, you use this capability of Gen AI to significantly improve that. It involves a lot of subject matter expertise. It involves a lot of data. It involves a lot of investment, but gives your R&D, your product side, on your formulation side, a significantly accelerated tool that can increase their productivity and capability significantly. That's kind of how it is done. But 95% of the use cases where you're going to use it is going to be using a pre-trained model, and I'll go a little more into detail on what a pre-trained model, and incorporating into automating a lot of your tasks. So again, that's where this is fundamentally going to change enterprises, is when they adopt it, it's significantly going to increase capability and productivity or automation.
With respect to automating tasks, make that tangible for us.
Sure.
If you're You think about a modern day, large, global, publicly traded company. You've got your business divisions, you've got your corporate function divisions, finance, HR, communications, legal. For the average person out there listening, what does that mean tangibly? Because if you read the news media, it's everybody's going to lose their jobs. Nobody's going to have a job ever again. And we're all just going to be passive observers as AI takes over the world and takes over the workplace. Obviously, that's hysteria. But what does it mean tangibly to real people in their jobs?
Any work that we do in an enterprise is into three buckets. One bucket is what we call structured work. Structured work meaning I come into the office, I have a set of action items, inputs, and I have a clear standard operating procedure on how do I act on that input. And I have a good understanding of what the outcome is supposed to be to do that. An example is this, right? I was talking to you about an email. Customer sends information to them. It's an issue resolution. That's the process, customer issue resolution. They send an email to the customer, to the staff saying that, hey, you invoiced me incorrectly. The price discount you didn't apply, or the quantity you delivered, you were supposed to give me 100 widgets, you gave me 50 widgets only, but you invoiced me for 100 widgets, so I'm not going to pay. So whatever, you get that type of issue from the customer, an email comes. The company had a team that would look at these and then kind of triage it. Is this something to send it to the product, the sales team? Should it go to the account management team? Should they send it to the delivery team to see when the next shipment is? Should it go to the billing team because they invoice the wrong amount, or go and talk to the disputes team? So they would look at it, triage it, and take. Now you're able to give these rules, the agents would be looking at the email and they would be reading the email. Sometimes it's a long conversation gone back and forth, and this email's long. They would read this. So now you could use Gen AI, because as I said, Gen AI is really, really good when it's unstructured data. And data coming in an email is unstructured. Ability to read that and extract the right information and then do the next step. The next step could be is routed to Kevin. He has to make a decision. Routed to Vin because Vin has to regenerate a new bill to do it. So it's able to do the next step. So now you're trying to take this kind of fuzzy logic, which the human was using. It is not completely rule-based, because if it was, you could have put something like a robotic process automation solution. If it's X and then do Y, if it's extremely rule-based. But now this is some amount of fuzzy logic is there. So we had the human in this place. That is the type of work Gen AI is very, very good at doing. Taking this, this kind of thing. So that's one example of structure, right? The other type of work, and maybe that's what you and I spend most of, is very unstructured. We have no idea what tomorrow looks like. It depends on which fire we are fighting, who's asking for what information, what's going on to do it. There, Gen AI is being used more as a digital assistant. You're Kevin, you're a client of Hackett, suddenly there is something, and, we'll talk about it, of saying, hey, there's a new Gen AI capability which has come on, Vin, what do you have, which is going to impact my chemical industry? What do you have about that? What I would do, I would put a paper together, a response together, and send you a PowerPoint. You may want to summarize the key things of the PowerPoint and send it to 10 different executives. You could use a Gen AI to do it. Instead of you reading the whole thing, summarizing, you read it, but it can be done very quickly to summarize it and send it.
Vin, are you saying that death by PowerPoint is going to turn into the death of PowerPoint? Is that what AI is going to do for the world? Because that would be a pretty significant contribution for everybody.
No, absolutely. And I think some of these things are going to, because you're going to become crisper. You've got I'm completely guilty of doing this, where, I create this 50 points presentation and send it off to you. And you're saying, okay, I need the 8 different points that I need to take out and communicate. You may have time to read that, but your customers or executives you're supporting may not have time. Now, instead of you reading it and summarizing the 8 points, the 10 points, you can get the help of a Gen AI agent to help you do that. Right.
So Vin, I've noticed in the last few years on Outlook that it will sometimes send you a note that says, based on your email, these are the tasks that you may have to do. It sounds to me like the future will be that the task just gets done if the system can do that.
Correct. And that is where it'll go. It'll be your assistant to say, hey, summarize these 6 documents and write. That may have been a task for you because your bank sent you, all the banks sent you their, monthly competition report. And you need to summarize that to do it. And there were, folks who have to read it, analyze it. There are folks who need to know only and it's going to help you. So it's almost like having an intern consultant along with you to help you do some of these things, right? To look at. So that's kind of how you use it when you are doing unstructured work. And the third type of work, which most of us do, is communication. We communicate with our customers, we are interacting with our customers, stakeholders. There, it makes that interaction much more effective by collecting all the information, right? We are, and say, okay, we're going to have this conversation, you and I, we're doing this podcast. But if I had if I was using it properly, I would say, here are all my education material that I've created on educating clients on Gen AI. Now, look through that and summarize the 6 questions that you and I want to talk about today. It can do that and have a script ready for me. I should have done it. I didn't do it. But that's kind of how it's able to do all of that and can do. So that's kind of how we should be thinking about using it. Is it structured work, unstructured work, or interaction? Structured work, it's going to automate further and further. It's going to give that step function to do it. Unstructured work, it's going to give me capacity to do things more. And interaction work, it's going to be much more effective in that interaction. Whatever it is, with my stakeholders, with my customers, with my suppliers, it can make it much more effective. That's kind of how to kind of look at this.
Talk about the difference that AI will have on the enterprise versus personal use.
Got it, yeah. No, in the personal use, there is a lot of ethical, in societal, there is a lot of ethical use. There is a lot of regulation is required here to make sure that it's being used, it's not abused to do it. It is at least relatively more simpler in the enterprise world of saying, okay, where can we use it, how to use it, right? So there are some regulations already in place. We understand it. Okay, we have to be careful when we are touching our employee data and we are making decisions, right? There is a fine balance between, hey, can I observe Vin's activities daily? And do I think he is there is a higher probability of him leaving the firm, and then I can take a preventive action. So there is where you run into some ethical questions within enterprise, right? Or you're trying to do with your customers. Okay, now you have a customer and we are using the customer's data to train our own models that we can go and monetize it somewhere else. So how do you disclose it to your customers and get permission to use it? So there are certain aspects of it on how we want to use it, but it's getting more defined. However, there are a lot of things that we could do, which is continuing this productivity and automation journey that we are on, right? So this example I was telling you about, the customer issue resolution, we are trying to continue automate. We are not looking, and the regulation is very clear, and we are able to operate and say, okay, hey, I'm looking at this activity and I'm going to continue to automate this further and further to improve my productivity. And as an enterprise, the more productive we become, it benefits our customers, it benefits our shareholders, it benefits our employees, all of us to do it, right? How did we move from, I tell clients that just maybe about 30 years ago, we were all doing 6-day work weeks, and we have now all moved to 5 days, and we are more productive than what we were. If you want to continue that, the value that an enterprise gives, biggest service is to become more and more productive that we can do. So it's better for employees, better for customers, better for the shareholders of the company. And that's kind of how we should be looking at it. How can I try and improve productivity? How can I create more flexibility in my product? How can I leverage? And you can be productive, not just resources, but on capital, on investment, from all of those perspectives to look at it. So fundamentally, if you come to a SG&A functions, there's three ways to look at adopting Gen AI. One is what we call embedded systems or embedded AI. So you currently use applications. You use a Salesforce, you use SAP, you may use ServiceNow. These are application, enterprise-wide applications they're using. Now, all of them are investing significantly on providing Gen AI capability that will be made available to you as an enterprise. Some of them will be at no cost, some there'll be an additional cost. You'll have to turn it on. You may not have some prerequisites. All of that you have to determine, and then you turn it on and you can use it. Typically, that capability is going to be one to many, right? If every company needs certain, Gen AI use cases are there and functionality will be useful, then they're going to embed it in that. Specifically to what Huntsman needs for the way you do it and your customers and your processes, you will have to develop your own Gen AI solutions. Now, that doesn't mean creating a new model. No, you will have these general purpose model like Llama from Meta or ChatGPT through Microsoft Azure OpenAI or Granite from watsonx. So these are all models that are available. Think of them as an undergraduate student or a graduate student. They've gone through a 4-year program. They are smart. You get them, but they have limited knowledge, right? You can communicate with them. You can give them tasks to do it. And then you've got to use them within your company. And how would you do it? You would probably bring them as an intern, teach them, train them, and start using it. The same thing here. These general purpose models are good enough for 95% of our use cases. And then you're going to build solutions on top of it. You're going to augment it with your own knowledge base, your employee policies, your engineering drawings, your finance policies, your procurement contracts. Those are all your knowledge that you will train them on to use it. And then you build solutions on it, right? To understand, okay, hey, in our world, when their customer says this, it means a particular business unit or it means a SKU item. Those are the things that we have to nuance. You can build solutions off and deploy it. And then there will be something called domain specialized. The domain specialized, think of what it is, an undergraduate student, but needs to become a lawyer, has to go through another 3 years and clear the bar and all of that specialization. To do that as a company, it's extremely cost prohibitive. But you could use a third-party firm, a Thomson Reuters. They have done it, and they provide this as a service to you. So you'll subscribe it and use that. So that's the kind of how you use. You use embedded, you use domain, and then you build your own native Gen AI solutions. That's kind of how you're going to be looking at it.
So what companies have you seen at this stage that are kind of early movers in terms of utilizing AI for some of these things you're talking about?
Yeah. So Hackett, we've been doing for the past 11 years, where we do digital awards. We look at companies on how they're adopting these new types of technologies and transforming their end-to-end processes, be it a hire to retire process or a customer to cash process or a plan to results process. These processes, how they're adopting technologies and doing it. And the last year in 2024, when we awarded these, we saw some companies significantly adopting Gen AI. And a couple of examples are 3M. Great case where they have adopted it. J&J has adopted it to help their employees get employee self-service through a solution that they have. There's a company in South Africa called MTN, which are using it to do supplier risk management to do it. IBM has used it in their plan to results. They've moved away from almost 38,000 management reports to zero. Is being produced. It's all available on the dashboard. It's all enabled by Gen AI and regular AI to create that. So there are companies such as these who have implemented it across their end-to-end process. Now, is it a complete enterprise? No. But they have seen the potential. They are investing in it. They are seeing the value from it. And they're going it. And now the question is, how do you start scaling it? It becomes enterprise-wide and embedded within the enterprise itself. That's the new way of operating the company.
Okay, Vin, I have a very basic question about AI may be used in the future. So there's one thing that everybody that works in a large enterprise has to do, and I want to know how AI may change it, which is filing expense reports for travel. Everybody's favorite thing to do, that $2 cup of coffee.
That's right.
Can you explain what AI will do to expense reporting in the future?
Think about it, right? What are the aspects of the expense report to do it? One is, what did you spend your money on to do it? And then, there's an audit. One, are you allowed to spend the money on it to do it? And then the second aspect of it is, which account should it be booked under? Is it like for us being in consulting, we have to either book it to a particular client that we have to do it. Is it a marketing expense? Is it a sales expense? Is it a training expense? So there's understanding on which kind of account it has to go to. And, and they see there is no kind of fraudulent activities. So these are some basic steps, and there are absolutely much more, but they are trying to do it. So the question is, the organization should know the clients that I'm already working for. The organization, I don't have to tell them that I'm coming to this expense. I was in Houston. I was at Huntsman's office. I took Kevin out for a nice lunch to do it. So if I'm already in Houston and I'm expensing some activity in Houston, it should think about, okay, who are all Vin's clients in Houston? Could it be this? So instead of me going and say, oh, I forgot what was Huntsman's project code, I need to go and find it and say, Vin, you are in this a Houston expense. Is it one of these things? Right?
I like
that you
that
pick
idea.
up, to do it. So, and why should I have to sit and do it? So make things easy for me, right? And you nailed it, right? Every Friday we are spending in time and I miss it. And then I get a email from my finance team and say, hey, you missed your expense report. And so we're not going to pay it. And I say, please, but to go through that.
This is the stuff that is going to make people love AI. It's like take away these administrative tasks that we all have to do, and that they're a feature of our work, but we don't want to do them because they're inefficient. They take up too much time.
So that's the way we have to change our way of thinking. Why should we have to sit and do it? Because we had to do it previously. Why? Because we didn't have technology to do that.
So Vin, there's a number of open source AI tools that are out there. ChatGPT is kind of the most popular one that's getting the most attention, with Sam Altman has been very public about the need to regulate AI. Microsoft Copilot. Talk about how enterprises are going to use those tools, the governance around that. And just as an example, I recently played around with ChatGPT. I hope I don't get myself in trouble. Putting together a job description.
Yeah.
And it was incredible, Vin. It was really amazing. Look, it wasn't the final job description, but it was something that I could work with and go back and forth. And it was highly effective and didn't require 8 hours of time. Which for a great job description, it might take you 2, 4, 6 hours. You have to come back to it 3 or 4 times. And it was incredible.
And then the good part, and I'll address that open AI and open source and closed enterprise services, and I'll come to that. But that's the beauty of it, right? So, Kevin, you had to write a job description. If you're taken maybe an hour, 2 hours of your time, you could have sat and written a great one. But that gives you a great starting point. And then it will start becoming smarter. And it's going to tell you, using these type of words, expression of this, are going to get you more. Or this is what was useful last time. You had a job description for this, but the person who finally got the job, their resume had a very different than what the job description is. Maybe you've got to incorporate that feedback. Now, we would have forgotten about it, right? Because that was done last year and, we forgot about it. But it can go and see, okay, what was the last time we posted the job description? What was the candidate who got? What was their resume? Was there anything that it learned? And we can go back. Those are all things can become much more effective to do it. Given the time and the space, you would have done that too. And you would have said, okay, hey, who are good? What are some new skills? And, which I never had it, but we had this new hire came in with that was really useful. I want to make sure that my next hires have this skill, right? You would have known it, but if you had given a lot of time and to do, you would have come up with it. But now somebody helping you, this is a digital assistant, giving you all of them is great. So coming back to your first question, right? Fundamentally, we tell clients not to use open source Gen AI in your enterprises.
Well, I guess I broke the rules then.
Yeah, so maybe...
I did it at home on my personal computer.
Yeah, that's right. That's a fantastic comeback to do it. But we ask companies not to do it. The reason is this, all right? There are a couple of things. You are exposing yourself to liability. I mean, suppose, Kevin, you had used the company's job equipment to write the job description. Somebody can come back and say, hey, your competitor can come back. That was our job description you copied, and that was what it is, because that's what the model may have learned. They see it, and it becomes, you get exposed to some of this litigation and things which are still being resolved in the much more macro levels. That's one. Second is there may be leakages. For example, you may say, hey, one of your vendors sent you a contract written in Portuguese, and you used it to translate for you and say, okay, what is it, the dates or certain key aspects of it you want to translate. It may be that that contract has gone into the ether that can be used, right? So you could lose some of your things. The third thing is there is an info security risk to do that. For example, a lot of people use ChatGPT and say, hey, can you write this macro, visual basic code that I want to use in my Excel spreadsheet? It will generate a code, but it could expose you to certain info security risk and cybersecurity risk to do that. So for these reasons, we tell you not to use it. We ask you to use the enterprise versions.
Okay, so coming to a close, my kind of last question for you is going back to the enterprise and the macro level. If you are the CEO of a company or the CFO of the company or the board, the leadership, and you are trying to make sense of AI, because there's so many unknowns, so many questions, but you kind of know that you can't ignore this. People liken it to the development of the internet, so it's going to impact everybody's business. What are the 3-4 things you should be doing in the next 12 to 18 months, aside from calling Vin? What are the things that they should be doing?
I definitely think that you may need to, I hate to use this consulting word, like a tiger team, or you got to have someone on your revenue side of the house to really, a small set of people, right, tasked with, hey, look at how we can adopt this or how this is going to disrupt us, right? And they need to be looking at the same thing on the enterprise services, all your SG&A functions. You got to create a small team to start looking at it. And they are going to educate. As I said, the revenue side is going to be different, and the enterprise services side is going to be different. And that's why I have two teams looking at this. Educate, deliberate experimentation, and say, okay, here is a sandbox, go play with it. Till you actually use it, you won't see it, right? You personally use it for some job description and realize, my God, this is so cool. It reduces my, 1 hour, I can now do it in, 15 minutes maybe. So you got to use it to get a feel for it, to do that. So it's deliberate experimentation to do it. And then you're going to create some sort of a center of excellence and say, okay, hey, we're going to keep visibility. We're going to come up with policies across the firm, and you've got representation from legal, from a finance, from your technology and your domain. The adoption of this is going to be critical. And then how is it going to change operations? So all of those aspects will be there in the center of excellence that you create.
All right, Vin, I know I said last question, but I have one more. So almost 20 years ago, this device came out. They always say about Steve Jobs that he invented things that we didn't know that we wanted. Mm. And there's been a lot of talk about artificial intelligence being the next big innovation. Talked about the internet before. 10 years from now, what are you and I going to look back on and say, remember on October 1st, 2024 when we had that conversation at the beginning of the AI revolution. We never could have foreseen fill in the blank. What is that?
I think.
And what's your prediction?
Yeah, I my prediction is going to, it's what happened to the manufacturing of the automation of production line in manufacturing, where you had these big robots kind of doing that. That's what's going to happen to the white collar or office work, quote unquote, which is going to impact. So all our enterprise services, a lot of things which we pride ourselves in doing, filling expense reports and to do. And, even today, right? And I explained to my daughter on how we process an invoice. She said, why are you doing all of this? Why can't people just Venmo each other and it's done? Or you don't have all of this thing, right? So this is what is going to happen is truly the enterprise is going to focus on doing what it needs. That is what is its core purpose and how the company operates. That will all be much, much more seamless. You're not going to have these big floors where cubicles or desks where people are working. The back offices, all of that is going to become more like, what you and I would see in a movie of how they show NASA. It's all just sitting, everything is operating, it's flowing. Whenever there's an issue, you pick up the red phone and you try and resolve that. That's kind of how the offices of the enterprises are going to be, where all of these quote unquote core functions are going to be all end-to-end automation. You're just making decisions. You're doing, taking, when you're predicting something can go wrong or seeing certain pattern and you want to take some action, right? That's kind of what we will be doing when we look. I don't know how much more hair we could lose. I don't think I have anything left, at least.
Oh, man, I got nothing left. maybe a little on the sides.
Yeah, so when we sit and chat, that's kind of what we'll, I think, be drinking and having with some tequila, I guess, hopefully.
Well, Vin, I have to say, as long as that conversation with tequila in 10 years, we are toasting the end of expense reporting, I think the AI revolution will be all worth it. And I think there are tens, if not hundreds of millions of people that would agree with that. And that's where we're going to stop. That's the end. We're going to get rid of expense reporting, Vin. Vin, listen, we thank you for coming on the podcast. It's been a fantastic conversation. I honestly feel like we just started scratching the surface. I have a million more questions, which means we're going to have you back. And as this issue evolves and we at Huntsman engage more with the tools of artificial intelligence and other industries do the same, it's going to require more leaders like you, people that are thinking about this day in and day out and advising companies on the best practices going forward. So we're looking forward to having you back. Can't thank you enough for coming on. And let us know if you need anything. You know where to find us.
Hey, absolutely. And hey, Kevin, thank you for having me. And thanks, Huntsman, for being a client of Hackett. So love the session and always here to do another one with you, Kevin.
It's our pleasure. Thanks, Vin.
Thanks a lot, guys.